The last Buddhist king of Maldives, Sri Tribhuvan Aditya Maharadun or King Dhoemi, converted to Islam in the year 1153. At that time, Maldives was a thriving Buddhist kingdom. He adopted the Muslim title of Sultan Muhammad al-Adil. He sent missions to different islands of the Maldives to convert Buddhist populations without any exception into Islam. He himself sailed to the island of Nilandu in North Nilande Atoll and converted the inhabitants there to Islam. He is also said to have built a mosque there. The process of conversion was not always peaceful, and it included extreme violence against monks as well as against the Buddhist temples and idols. There are records which mention that Buddhist monks were brought to Malé from different islands and beheaded for refusing to convert to Islam. There are also historical records which talk about the mass level destruction of Buddhist and Hindu temples and statues. This is the story of how the islands of Maldives were settled by Buddhists and Hindus from India and Sri Lanka, and how Buddhism was replaced by Islam on this island nation during the 12th century. The early history of Maldives is covered in mystery, with limited archaeological findings to tell the story of its past. Despite the shortage of archaeological evidence, historical sources do provide glimpses into the pre-Islamic Maldivian society. The ancient records talk about a matriarchal social structure where the islands were initially ruled by matriarchs. Before the arrival of Islam, Hinduism and Buddhism flourished on the islands. Traces of Buddhist influence survives in ruins and artifacts scattered across the atolls, dating back over a millennium. The predominant Vajrayana sect, in particular, left a lasting impression on Maldivian culture before the islands were converted to Islam in the 12th century. The earliest references to the Maldives in historical records date back to around 500 to 250 BC. Mentions of these islands are found in Indian and Sri Lankan Buddhist texts such as the Jatakas and Mahavansha, the ancient texts from Sri Lanka. The Jataka talks about the story of a king, Bharu, exiled to the islands as a punishment. According to Dipavansha, Sri Lankan aboriginals were evicted to a lush green island called Giri, believed to be the Maldives. These accounts prove that the islands were inhabited centuries before the Christian era, with cultural connections to regions like Gujarat in India and Sri Lanka, while archaeological evidence supports that the Maldives was settled before the Christ and by people who practiced Buddhism. The origin of these settlers remains unclear. Human settlements in Maldives dates back over 2,500 years. According to local lore, the first settlers, known as Devis, established the initial kingdom of the Maldives, referred to as Diwamari. Historical records suggest that during the 3rd century BC, the islands were known as Diwamahal. The name Maldives was derived from Sanskrit and Silla languages, and the name Maldive means a garland of islands. Evidence suggests that the Maldives had established kingdoms as early as the 6th and 5th centuries BC, with historical records indicating emigration from Sri Lanka to the islands. Based on existing evidences, some historians believe that people may have been living in the Maldives during the period of Indus Valley Civilization, that is, around 3000 to 5000 years ago in the history. According to the book by Shihabuddin, written during the 17th century, the first settlers of the island arrived from India's Kalibanga region before the period of Emperor Ashoka, that is, before the 3rd century BC. These initial settlers were known as Thevis. These accounts align with the recorded history of ancient India, and support details found in the Maldivian records and that of the copper plate documents of the Maldives known as Lomafanu, the Mapanansa, the copper plates on which they recorded the history of the first kings of the Maldives from the Solar dynasty are lost now. Upon their arrival, the Devis named their settlements with the term Duva for each island they discovered, establishing the kingdom of Dhivamari. The kingdom of the Aditya Vansha or the Solar dynasty was founded in Dhivamari by King Sri Surudas Aruna Aditya. He was the first known monarch of the Devis of Dhivamari. Subsequent settlers included the Reddy and the Kunibi from India's Maharashtra region. Indo-Aryans arriving around 6th to 5th centuries BC from India introduced Hinduism to the islands. The earliest documented narrative concerning the Maldives date back to the arrival of the Sinhalese people, descendants of the exiled Prince Vijay from the ancient city of Sripura in India, possibly the ancient Kalinga region or the Gujarat region. According to the Mahavansha, between 543 and 483 BC, Prince Vijay and his followers, numbering several hundreds, arrived in Sri Lanka, with some also reaching the Maldives. In the northern Maldives, several tribes from southern India settled. The early settlers in the northern Maldives were descendants of fishermen from southwestern India and northwestern Sri Lanka, including the Giravaru people indigenous to the islands. The Giravaru people, considered the earliest island community, predating Buddhism and Indo-Aryan migration, likely originated from ancient Tamils from the Malabar coast of India and northwestern Sri Lanka. They are mentioned in ancient legends and local folklore about the establishment of the capital Male and the establishment of the monarchy on the island nation. The kingdom of Aditya Vansha or Solar dynasty formed in Dhivamari ruled until the establishment of the kingdom of Somavansha or the Lunar dynasty. Sri Baladitya was the first king of Somavansha. The Lunar dynasty governed the southern Maldives until the advent of Islam. At the beginning of the Somavansha dynasty, the Indian ruler Raja Raja Chola invaded Dhiva Mahal's northern two atolls and took control of them. Sri Mahasandura, a king of Somavansha, exiled his daughter Kamanhar to the island of Ismidu. She left to the island along with Mapanansa, a copper plate document detailing Aditya Vansha's history. These copper plates were soon lost, and the history of the Solar dynasty in Maldives is lost now. The settlement of the Sinhalese in Sri Lanka and the Maldives marked a significant demographic shift and contributed to the evolution of the Indo-Aryan language Dhivehi, which shares linguistic similarities in grammar and structure with Sinhala, particularly the ancient Elu-Prakrit. Dhivehi, the language of the Maldives, belongs to the Indo-European language family with its roots in Sanskrit. Dhivehi and Sinhalese may have descended from a common ancestral language, now known as Proto-Dhivehi Sinhala. The Maldives is the smallest country in Asia by land area. It is situated southwest of Sri Lanka and India, approximately 750 kilometers from the Asian mainland, consisting of a chain of 26 atolls. The Maldives comprises of around 2,000 coral islands, grouped into a double chain, covering an area of 90,000 square kilometers. The total land area of the country is only 298 square kilometers. As geographically one of the most dispersed countries in the world, it is also the world's smallest Muslim majority country by land area. According to the last census, the total population of the country was 515,132, making it the second least populated country in Asia The Maldivian atolls consists of live coral reefs and sandbars sitting atop a submarine ridge stretching 960 kilometers in length. The Maldives' strategic location on major marine routes explains its historical significance, fostering cultural and economic bonds with neighboring countries like Sri Lanka, India, and the Gulf nations. The islands served as a crucial source of cowrie shells, a currency in ancient Asia and parts of East Africa, and they also had extensive trade ties with China, underscoring their role in broader maritime networks.